Wife cheated on me with my stepbrother and got pregnant. So when I asked for a paternity test, she aborted the baby. So I told her parents everything, who later cut her off from her inheritance. I never thought my life would turn into some twisted soap opera. But here we are. I'm David, a 34-year-old accountant living in a small suburban town. My wife, Louis, and I had been married for 7 years. Things were great. At least I thought they were. But life has a funny way of throwing curveballs when you least expect it. It all started on a regular Tuesday evening. I came home from work, tired and ready to relax. Louis was in the kitchen preparing dinner. I kissed her on the cheek and went to our bedroom to change. That's when I noticed her phone buzzing incessantly on the nightstand. Normally, I wouldn't invade her privacy, but something just felt off. Call it intuition or whatever. Curiosity got the better of me, and I glanced at the screen. There were dozens of messages from someone named AJ. My stomach dropped as I read through them. Explicit texts, intimate photos, and plans to meet up when I was away on a business trip. My heart pounded in my chest as the realization hit me. My wife was cheating on me. I confronted her that night. Louis C. denied everything at first, but the evidence was irrefutable. Eventually, she broke down and admitted she was having an affair. But it wasn't just anyone. It was with my stepbrother, Mark. Yeah, you heard that right. My own stepbrother. The betrayal cut deep. Mark and I had grown up together after our parents remarried when we were teens. We weren't super close, but we were family. And here he was, stabbing me in the back in the worst way possible. The days following the confrontation were a blur of anger, sadness, and confusion. Louis begged for forgiveness, saying it was a mistake, a moment of weakness. She claimed she still loved me and wanted to make things right. But trust, once shattered, is hard to rebuild. I couldn't even look at Mark. He tried calling and texting, but I ignored every attempt. The betrayal was too raw, too fresh. I took a week off work to clear my head, but the pain was relentless. It felt like my world was crumbling around me. About a month after the initial discovery, Louis dropped another bombshell. She was pregnant. My mind raced with questions. Was it mine? Or was it Mark's? The thought of raising another man's child, let alone my stepbrother's, was unbearable. I told Louis I wanted a paternity test. She was furious, accusing me of not trusting her, of trying to control her. But what the hell did she expect? She'd already destroyed my trust. The only way I could even begin to consider staying with her was to know the truth. The argument over the paternity test dragged on for weeks. Louis finally agreed, but the tension between us was palpable. We barely spoke, living like strangers under the same roof. I scheduled the test, hoping for some clarity. The night before the test, Louis came home late. She looked exhausted and distressed. Without a word, she handed me a piece of paper. It was a receipt from an abortion clinic. My heart sank as I read it. She had aborted the baby. I was in shock. She said she couldn't handle the stress, the uncertainty of the paternity, and the strain it was putting on our marriage. She thought this would be a way to start fresh, to move past the affair. But to me, it felt like another betrayal. I couldn't contain my anger. I yelled, screamed, said things I probably shouldn't have. But the pain was too much to bear. How could she make such a decision without consulting me? It was my baby too, or at least it might have been. After the abortion, things between Louis and me went from bad to worse. We were constantly fighting, and I felt more alone than ever. One night, after a particularly heated argument, I stormed out of the house and drove to my parents' place. I needed someone to talk to, someone who could help me make sense of this mess. My parents were shocked when I told them everything. My mom cried, and my stepdad, usually a calm and composed man, looked like he wanted to punch something or someone. We talked for hours, and they offered their support, but it didn't change the fact that my life was in shambles. A few days later, I made a decision. Stay here, swear. I couldn't keep living like this. I told Louis I wanted a divorce. She was devastated, begging me to reconsider, to go to counseling, to try and work things out, but I was done. There was no going back. The final straw came when I decided to tell her parents. They had always been kind to me, treating me like a son. I felt they deserved to know the truth. I didn't expect them to take my side, but I couldn't continue to hide what Louie had done. When I met with her parents, I laid everything out. Her affair with Mark, the pregnancy, the abortion, and the constant fighting. They were stunned. Her father, a stern but fair man, was particularly furious. He thanked me for my honesty and assured me they would handle it. A few weeks after my conversation with Louie's guy parents, the shit really hit the fan. Her parents were beyond furious. Her father, in particular, was livid. I knew Louie relied heavily on their financial support. They were loaded, and she'd always had a comfortable cushion. Well, not anymore. Her dad called me to let me know they were cutting her off from her inheritance and all financial support. He thanked me for being honest and said he was disappointed in Louie. I felt a weird mix of relief and guilt. I wasn't trying to destroy her life, I just wanted the truth out there. But actions have consequences, right? When Louie found out, she lost it. She called me, crying and screaming, accusing me of ruining her life. I'll admit a part of me felt bad, but I was also done feeling guilty for her mistakes. She made her bed. Now she had to lie in it. I moved out of our house and got myself a small apartment on the other side of town. It was nothing fancy, but it was mine. I needed to get away from all the memories, from all the pain that house held. The divorce process was a nightmare. Louie fought me on everything: property, finances, even the damn dog. It was drawn out and ugly, but 6 months later, it was finally over. I felt like a massive weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Starting over wasn't easy. I threw myself into my work, trying to drown out the noise in my head. I reconnected with some old friends I hadn't seen in years. We'd grab beers, watch games, and just talk. It felt good to have a support system, people who had my back. I also started seeing a therapist. I was skeptical at first, but it turned out to be one of the best decisions I made. Talking about everything, my anger, my pain, my confusion, helped me process it all. My therapist helped me understand that it was okay to feel hurt, to feel betrayed, and to take my time healing. As for Mark, we haven't spoken since everything came out. He moved to another city, which was probably for the best. Our family gatherings are awkward as hell now. My mom tries to keep the peace, but there's this unspoken tension that hangs in the air. I avoid him as much as possible. It's not like we were super close before, but now there's no relationship left to salvage. Louie moved in with a friend after her parents cut her off. She found a job and started trying to piece her life back together. We're not in contact anymore, which is honestly a relief. Seeing her, talking to her, it just reopened old wounds. Slowly but surely, I started to rebuild my life. I redecorated my apartment, making it feel like home. I picked up some new hobbies like hiking and cooking. It was therapeutic, giving me something to focus on. And you know what? I realized I'm stronger than I ever gave myself credit for. I went through hell, but I came out the other side. I even started dating again. It was weird at first, putting myself out there, but I met some great people. I'm taking things slow, not rushing into anything. I've learned my lesson about trust and how fragile it can be. But I'm hopeful. Life goes on, and so do I. So that's where I am now. It's been a wild ride, full of ups and downs, but I've come to terms with what happened. I've learned to forgive, not for them, but for myself. And most importantly, I've learned that sometimes the worst experiences can teach you the most valuable lessons. Life isn't perfect, but it's mine, and I'm ready to live it on my own terms.